All right, everybody. I wasn't even necessarily going to stream today, and then I was later, and then I saw how insane what's going on is with Johnny Depp's business manager. So let's jump right in. No songs, no nothing. I'm going to get set up while we watch.
He didn't have enough money at the time, correct? He was spending more than he was bringing in, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you gave him advice about how he could hopefully get out of that problem, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And just to be clear, Mr. White, because you've testified to some degree of knowledge about wine that you allege that Ms. Heard requested. So you seem to have some knowledge of Mr. Depp's spending. Ms. Heard didn't buy any of the dozens of properties that Mr. Depp owned, correct?
Correct. He owned the assets prior to their marriage.
She didn't pay $5 million to blast Hunter Thompson's ashes out of a cannon, did she?
Not to my knowledge.
She didn't buy a yacht that she couldn't afford and then have to sell it to J.K. Rowling, did she?
Not to my knowledge.
Now let's talk about that meeting on April 21st, 2016. You said the meeting started at about 7:30 p.m.?
Yes.
And lasted till maybe 9:30, is that right?
Yes.
And you have no idea, no personal knowledge where Mr. Depp went after he left that meeting, do you?
That is correct. I did not go with him. I went home.
And at that meeting, Mr. Depp was given some catastrophic news about his business, correct?
He was given news that he needed to address a number of financial issues, but I had a strategy and plan to fully resolve them.
That news that he was given that night was catastrophic, wasn't it?
No.
May I approach, Your Honor?
All right. Yes, sir.
So if you're just joining us, this is the business manager of Johnny Depp.
Thank you.
Now under cross-examination by Amber Heard's attorney. Riveting stuff.
Mr. White, let's do this again with another under oath series of statements. You gave testimony in the UK trial, did you not?
Yes.
And that testimony was under oath, correct?
Yes.
All right. And in front of you, I have your testimony from the UK trial, and you gave that testimony on behalf of Mr. Depp, correct?
I gave it honestly.
Okay. You gave it on behalf of Mr. Depp, correct? You were one of his witnesses called.
That is correct.
Okay. Can you please turn to page 865?
This may not go that well
And
for this guy.
It's just the second page of the document, upper left. Before that, the questions are talking about this meeting on April 21st, 2016. And you were asked the question, now Mr. Depp was given some catastrophic news about his business. Answer, that is correct. Did I read that right?
You did, but remember,
That was just
when
my
I get a
question.
chance
You
to
answered my
respond,
question, sir. You answered
I
my
did not
question.
define that term.
Sir, Mr. You'll have a chance. The attorney will get back up and redirect you, okay? So if you could just answer his question, that's fine.
And the reason I'm asking, sir, is because you just gave the exact opposite testimony here. So that's why we pointed that out. Now, you at this meeting, you had a discussion about his financial affairs and a necessity to formulate a revised business strategy and plan, correct?
Yes.
And you talked about the following financial information. You talked about bank obligations and tax liabilities, right?
Yes.
Which means money you owe to either the government or banks, correct?
Yes.
You talked about assets that he needed to sell, correct?
Yes.
Properties and things like that he needed to sell to generate money.
Correct.
You talked about ways to reduce spending, correct?
Yes.
And you talked about how to get new engagements, correct?
Yes.
How to get new gigs, right?
Not how to get them, but
The
I
need to
encouraged
get
him
them.
to get them. I'm not an
Understood.
agent.
I
do
appreciate
not
that.
procure his engagements.
And understood. You talked about the need to get new gigs to generate additional money to help address these financial woes that he was experiencing, correct?
Yes.
You also told him at that meeting that his taxes, he hadn't paid taxes in years, correct?
No, that's not correct. That he had not paid any taxes in years is not correct.
That he was significantly delinquent in federal tax obligations dating back years, correct?
I don't know how you're defining years. There were delinquent liabilities. I addressed them and formulated a plan.
I am curious how this will be used to support or fight against defamation allegations. Welcome to everyone on Twitch. Yes, we have a hype train, I know.
And you talked about the significant delinquent tax liabilities that would run into the millions of dollars for taxes unpaid, correct?
That is correct.
And so after receiving this catastrophic news, as we discussed, you have no idea where Mr. Depp went when he walked out of the doors of his office, correct?
I do not know
Okay.
where he went.
Can you pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 936, please?
Uh-oh. Oh, boy.
And Mr. White, I'm not going to, this is a long document that we can scroll through, but what I'll represent to you, and Michelle can sort of scroll down, is that these appear to be Mr. Depp's tax returns for Mr. Depp and his companies from 2009 to 2019. Do you see that?
Yes.
And these are returns as part of your role as his CPA firm now, his business manager firm now. Your firm prepares these tax returns, correct?
Yes.
And you maintain these tax returns in the ordinary course of your business, correct?
That is correct.
Your Honor, I know there's going to be plenty of redaction to do, but I just would like to move these into evidence. I don't plan to publish them or anything at this point. Objection, Your Honor.
You want to approach? Sure.
So we are back to in-person testimony, and this is quite a character. I don't know if I'd put him up there with the butler, but certainly a notable and titillating character in this entire thing so far. Many of you have written to me, and you've observed apparently what some of you are describing as a flirtatious regular interaction between this attorney to Johnny Depp's left and Johnny Depp, and that. I have to be perfectly frank, I haven't noticed that in particular, but kind of, I guess, maybe interesting to some people. And otherwise, the trial continues. Now, remember that this is all the Depp case. Later, it will be the Amber Heard case, and I can only imagine what's going to happen there. I have to tell you, with all the horrible things going on, there's something endlessly entertaining about this trial.
That is not correct.
Are you familiar with Tracy Jacobs?
Yes.
That's Mr. Depp's former agent, correct?
Yes.
And at the time that she was serving as his agent, part of her job responsibilities, to the best of your understanding, was to communicate with you about Mr. Depp's financial affairs, correct?
To the extent she had knowledge,
Right.
yes, she would communicate.
And you and she did communicate about Mr. Depp, correct?
During the period of her engagement, yes, we did communicate.
Okay. Can you pull up Defendant's Exhibit 874, please, Michelle? Mr. White, do you see here this text exchange between you and Tracy Jacobs?
Yes.
And your texts are in white and Miss Jacobs are in blue, correct?
Yes.
Michelle, could you please scroll to the document that is Bate stamped Depp 19246. It's about the fifth or sixth one down, please. Mr. White, do you see here the third text down from Tracy Jacobs to you saying, thanks, I got a call from Disney last week saying he showed up 5 hours
Objection, Your
late
Honor,
for
hearsay.
EDR. It's not hearsay, it's party opponent. She's his agent. I'm happy to approach if you'd like to discuss.
We seem to have seeds and nuts being chewed by Johnny Depp. He has been sometimes offering seeds and nuts to his attorneys, which is interesting to say the least. I want to say thank you to some great people who have been re-upping Twitch Prime subscriptions, including Billy Carpenter, Dustin, Irie and Brain Matter. Very much appreciate that. I will be live with the Trump rally tomorrow evening. Yes, I hope many of you will join me. It'll be a little bit of a later stream. Trump goes live at 9 p. East, so I will be live at 8 p. East. And that'll be, some people say it's the perfect time. For people who want to see the full interview with Trumpist candidate John Gibbs that I previewed yesterday, it is now live on my other YouTube channel. That's the other YouTube channel, Pacman Live. The full, and folks, when I say full, I mean completely unredacted 23-minute interview with Trumpist candidate John Gibbs. It's now live on the Pacman Live YouTube channel. Already getting some very nice emails about it. I see Hoosier D's in Twitch chat is finding it scintillating. Yeah, it is. I mean, he didn't answer any questions. I was like, okay, sure, gas prices are high, but like, do you agree that they are down from their peak? He's like, I believe they are too high. Right, so do I, but just so we can get to my next question, are we on the same page that they're down? He goes, they're way too high. Right. But it was crazy. It was endless. What else do we have going on? There's a lot. I can't even keep up with everything going on. Thanks to Kevin Gouldy for gifting a subscription so generously on my website. That subscription goes to, let me see who's next here. Sorry. Michael Beechler. Michael Beechler, you get a membership thanks to Kevin Gouldy. I really appreciate that. Also, thanks to Jen here for gifting a subscription on Twitch. That's always appreciated. What do I think is going on with Twitter follows? Yeah, a bunch of right-wingers getting followers and a bunch of left-wingers like me losing followers since the announcement of Elon Musk buying Twitter was announced. To be totally honest, I don't have an explanation right now. Could it be organic? I really don't know. I genuinely don't know. I gave my opinions yesterday of what we know at the time, and then we'll, hopefully there will be more information coming. 22 Damo 22 has grabbed a Twitch Prime subscription and is number 7. Very much appreciate that. Thank you to everybody. Come on in, everybody. We're in the middle of testimony. This is the cross-examination of Johnny Depp's business manager, Edward White. We're watching it closely. It's pretty entertaining. It's pretty wild. And right now they're arguing about a particular text conversation, which makes Johnny Depp look really bad. There's no doubt about it, being regularly late to filming and all of these other things. So we'll see where they're going with this. How is my espresso today? Good. A beautiful crema today. I think I've got it really dialed in. Susie D has just grabbed the Twitch Prime subscription and is number 8 today. Thank you. Also, Azah is a new Twitch Prime subscriber. And Slingblade as well. Slingblade, a very, very powerful shot across the bow there. Sam Cedar is back on his show, recovered from the virus. We're glad to see him back, of course. I was in touch with Sam, urgently in touch with him throughout his illness. I also want to say thanks to Jody Bundrick. Jody has just gifted a subscription on my website. That's number 11. The lucky recipient is Robin Mace. Robin Mace. If you'd like a free membership, you can register at davidpakman.com/free membership. There are currently 692 people in line ahead of you. Just bear that in mind. But we are getting through a whole bunch. I think in total we've gifted about 230 website memberships, roughly would be my guess. Somewhere in there. Do we have any other Trumpist interviews coming up? My colleague John is working on that. Yeah, I've been enjoying. It's so funny because this is crazy, but the interviews with Trumpists are basically dementia screening questions. Like I say to them, who's the president? And what's crazy is none of them can just answer correctly. I mean, it's bizarre that we've gotten to this point, but the Trumpist candidates are so bonkers that we ask questions often asked to people where we're trying to see, did you have a stroke? Do you have a brain injury? Do you have dementia? It's wild. It really is wild. None scheduled, but my colleague John is working on it. Pixel Ninja has just subscribed via Twitch Prime and is number 12 today. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Pixel Ninja. Am I on Truth Social? I am not. I don't have an iPhone. So I don't know. I can't get on there. On the Friday show tomorrow, we're going to look at a Republican candidate who says her son saw Jesus in a closet, and that's why she's running.
You remember that text?
Yes.
Okay. We're just going to show you and move for admission of that page of the document with that text. So I just wanted, since you won't see anything else, I just wanted you to orient yourself that is the text that we were just reading, okay?
Fine.
All right. That page or that text?
They're going to redact it, just that one text.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I would move for admission of this document as, I guess we could call it Defendant's 874A.
Okay, 874A with the redactions. All right, thank you.
Mr. White, you just testified a few minutes ago that you didn't have any understanding of Mr. Depp showing up late for work on Pirates 5, but in fact, you received this text from Tracy Jacobs that says, thanks. I got a call from Disney last week saying he showed up 5 hours late for ADR work in London for Pirates 5. I really need to speak to him before he starts work on his next project in LA. Did I read that right? Permission to publish this, Your Honor?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
ADR is automated dialogue replacement, presumably re-recording some lines of films.
I'm going to ask you if I read that right, that you received this text message saying in part, I got a call from Disney last week saying he showed up 5 hours late for ADR work in London for Pirates 5. I really need to speak to him before he starts work on this next project in LA. Did I read that right?
I believe you read it right.
Thank you. Now, at some point you became familiar. You can go ahead and take that down, please. Thank you. At some point you became familiar, as you testified, with what Amber planned to do with money that she got from Mr. Depp in the divorce, correct?
It was the understanding from the beginning the money would be contributed to charities.
To two charities, to the
Contracts were drafted in that manner.
Children's Hospital of LA and the ACLU, correct?
That is correct.
And as we discussed, you wrote checks to those two organizations that were part of Mr. Depp's divorce payment, but they were just sent directly to those organizations, correct?
Yes.
Can you please pull up Defendant's Exhibit 1639? Actually, let's do Defendant's Exhibit. Yeah, we'll do 1639. Thanks.
There's water everywhere in here, and I don't even know where it came from.
Mr. White, this is a letter from you to the ACLU Foundation dated August 24th, 2016, correct?
Yes.
And as part of your work for your 100 or so high-profile, high-net-worth clients, you've helped clients set up pledged contributions to charities before, correct?
Yes.
And sometimes those payments are made over a period of time, correct?
Yes.
Charitable donations aren't always paid at once, correct?
That is correct.
And when you make payments on behalf of your clients to charities, is it customary for you to send a cover letter like this?
In some instances, yes. In some instances, no.
Okay.
But in all instances, that there is a signed agreement and an understanding that when the payments will be made.
Sir, that wasn't my question. My question was just, is it customary for you to send a letter like this? And I think you've answered that. And so when you send letters like this on behalf of your clients, do you prepare such letters in the ordinary course of your business?
In some instances, yes.
And in the instances in which you prepare those letters, do you then maintain those letters in the ordinary course of your business?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for admission of Defendant's Exhibit 1639.
All right, objection? No. All right, 1639 in evidence, and you can publish it to the jury. Thank you.
And Michelle, if you could please just scroll through, Mr. White, I just want you to see there's the letter here. We'll come back to the letter. And then there's the check that you're making out to the ACLU. Then there's, I guess, the envelope or something, right?
Correct.
Okay. If you can go back to the letter, please. So in this cover letter, you tell the ACLU that you're enclosing a check for $100,000 and that the donation is being made in accordance with Ms. Heard's pledged gift of $3.5 million to the ACLU Foundation. Correct?
Yes.
And you also write that the check represents. Just go ahead. That the check represents the first of multiple scheduled installments, correct?
It was my understanding that she was
asking
going
if
to
that's what you wrote.
contribute $3,500,000
I'm just asking if that's what
to
you wrote,
children.
sir.
You've asked me a question. I'm trying to respond.
No, I was actually just asking if that's what you wrote.
Would you ask the question again, please?
Yeah, you write, this check represents the first of multiple scheduled installments to honor the full amount of Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledged gift.
It was my understanding she was going to contribute the money, and that's
Okay.
We do have our lawyers in the audience. It would be interesting to know whether this kind of antagonistic, condescending attitude is considered to be useful in terms of how the jury would perceive it. To me, it strikes me as not a great strategy, but he must be doing it for a reason. I'd be curious to hear strategy on it from lawyers in the audience. Oh, now they're going to be discussing an issue. Once the Heard side starts to present their case, maybe Depp's lawyers will start to take this condescending attitude. I don't know. It's a curiosity for sure. Thanks to Black, White, Rook, and Better Call Saul for the Twitch Prime subscriptions. Boy, that Better Call Saul season 6, that is something. I'm 3 episodes in, which I think is all that's been published so far. It is just a fantastic program. It really is. I am going to try to get a different feed that maybe
Mr.
just doesn't
White,
have a watermark.
Is this a letter similar to what we just looked at for the ACLU, a letter that you wrote that accompanied the check that you sent to the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles Foundation?
yes.
And this letter and the
Better audio.
this letter is one that you would have prepared in the ordinary course of business, correct?
Yes.
And you would have maintained this letter in the ordinary course of business, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of Exhibit 1596.
All right, 1596 in evidence. You can publish it to the jury.
And Mr. White, this letter also says at the bottom that it represents, the check that accompanies this letter represents the first of multiple scheduled installments to honor the full amount of Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledged gift, correct?
When I composed a letter, that was my understanding that she was going to give $3.5 million to charity.
You're really not answering my question. My question was simply, I understand that you want to speak your own narrative here, but my question was simply that this letter says that this check represents the first of multiple scheduled installments to honor the full amount of Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledged gift, correct?
We can both read the letter, and the answer is yes.
Thank you, sir. Now, you hosted a dinner with Mr. Depp and Adam Waldman in 2016, correct?
Uh-oh.
I do recall that.
And that was the first time that Mr. Depp had been introduced to Mr. Waldman, correct?
I do not know that. Be factual.
Now, you are not an expert on California divorce law, right?
Correct.
And you're not an expert on the division of marital property in California, correct?
I'm not an expert, but I've been actively involved in numerous cases involving the dissolution of marriage and the related proceeds are distributed to each respective party.
Please proceed, Governor.
Now, you can't give any sort of legal opinion or testimony as to whether or not Ms. Heard would have been entitled to more in the divorce settlement with Mr. Depp than she received, correct?
I'm not an attorney at law.
Okay.
I don't render legal opinions.
So, you've never met Amber Heard, correct?
That is correct.
The first time you've ever seen her in person is here in this courtroom this afternoon, correct?
That's my recollection.
And you have no personal knowledge of whether Mr. Depp engaged in domestic abuse against my client, correct?
I've never witnessed him involved in any abuse, and obviously I've never met her. I could not respond to that inquiry.
So the answer to my question is that it's correct, that you have no personal knowledge of whether Mr. Depp engaged in domestic abuse against Amber Heard.
That is correct. I have no knowledge.
Nothing further.
Period.
All right, redirect.
Oh, boy.
Mr. Dennison?
Can we pull up defendants 1596?
There's probably weeks left of the trial for people asking.
Sir, could you read the last line of your letter?
Sir.
This check represents the first of multiple scheduled installments to honor the full amount of Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledged gift.
What was the schedule for those payments?
They were scheduled. I don't know the schedule because I don't have a copy of any pledge that she made, if that's your question.
Okay, thank you very much. One more question. Has Mr. Depp paid all his taxes?
Yes, he has. He's fully current with all of his federal, foreign, and state tax obligations.
Thank you.
All right, no further questions, Mr. Dennison?
No further questions.
All right, is this witness subject to recall? No. No? All right, Mr. White, you're free to go. Thank you, sir. Just be very careful stepping down there, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Wow.
All right, your next witness is remote witness, correct? Yes. All right, let me just give him don't.
Might be time for a break, Your Honor.
Your Honor, may we just ask what witness they plan to call next?
I see a Mr. Connolly in the lobby, so I'm assuming that must be the one.
That's correct.
Okay, good. Good, I'm glad we got that one. All right.
And I won't talk about the third element of a bathroom.
Yeah, that's probably smart. That is probably smart. I don't know what that noise is. It's a bizarre noise. Oh, people saying Ozark tomorrow. Yeah, you know who follows me on Instagram, who I've exchanged some messages with? The actress Jessica Dukes, who plays the FBI agent in Ozark.
Mr. Connolly, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Hi. Yeah.
Can you turn your camera on, sir?
Sir.
Just, you know. Okay. There we go. There we go.
This should be interesting.
All right, sir, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth under penalty of law?
I hope we can see him.
I do.
All right.
All right, and good afternoon, Mr. Connolly.
Good afternoon.
And would you please state your full name for the record?
Malcolm Connolly.
Here we go.
And Mr. Connolly, where are you testifying from at the moment?
From home, Essex, UK.
And where do you live?
I live in Essex, UK.
Mr. Connolly, what is your occupation?
At present, close protection operative. I've had a couple of professions. I'm a bricklayer to trade. I was in the corrections facility.
Could we pump him up, please?
HMS prison. But right now, yeah, I'm a protection operative.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit, just generally, what that means?
It means looking after the personal well-being, physical well-being of any client you're detailed to.
And how long have you been in the personal security business?
25 years.
Over the course of those 25 years, have you had any other kinds of jobs?
Yeah, as I said, I was a corrections officer for Her Majesty's Prison.
They should really ask him if he uses the term fuzzy ginger for a soda.
Are you familiar with the plaintiff in this case, Johnny Depp?
I am, yes.
And how do you know Mr. Depp?
I know Mr. Depp maybe about 23 years ago, 24 years ago. I worked for a company called Music and Arts. The guy who owned that company was Jerry Judge. Jerry started working with Johnny way back in the early days, and I was detailed with looking after Johnny's ex, Vanessa Paradis, and Jack and Lily Rose, Johnny's kids. And my job was just to make sure they were safe when Johnny was at work. So that job, after about a year and a half, 2 years, Johnny asked me to go with him directly, and we'll find someone else to do the kids and that. And that's how I came across Johnny. That's how I personally met Johnny Depp.
Can you ballpark for us about what year that was?
Oh, 2006.
Okay. And can you generally just tell us a little bit about what you do for Mr. Depp as his security guard?
Well, I knock around the photographers.
To everyday public places, make sure he's okay, make sure he's not in any danger. First of all, do the recce. You go along first. There's usually a two-man team. It's a two-man detail. You go along, do your recce, make sure all the ins and outs are sorted, no compromises, any risks involved, do a risk assessment. We do the job. I look after him. Basically, I look after Johnny whenever we're in public domain. Whenever we're going to be in a public domain, I will look after Johnny.
Okay. And how about the defendant in this case, Amber Heard? Are you familiar with Miss Heard?
I am familiar with Miss Heard, yeah. I first met Miss Heard in probably 2000, and I don't recall the actual date, probably about 2010, maybe around there. She came into the UK to do a promotional job for a movie called Drive Angry. My boss, Jerry Judge, asked me to take the detail. Went and met Amber, started the job. Amber was with her ex, Tasha, and I looked after Amber for a week.
Tosh?
Pleasant week, it was fine, great.
Does anything stand?
Sorry, yeah. After that week, I never seen Amber again until we did the Rum Diaries, the premiere after show of the Rum Diaries.
The subtitles are not keeping up with this guy's accent. It's pretty pathetic.
To the Rum Diary then. When did you see Miss Heard? How did you see Miss Heard in connection with the Rum Diary?
We done the Rum Diary premiere. We went to the after show party. I'm busy working, doing my job, myself and Jerry Judge.
They died of Crimea. Oh my God! The subtitle said that they died of Crimea, which I've never. It's not in the DSM-5. It doesn't seem to be a physiological condition.
Usual chit chat. We chit chatted for a minute or two. Johnny asked me how I actually knew Amber. Explained. That's the last I spoke to Amber that night. I was too busy with Johnny doing my job,
Did you know at the time, and let's back up for a second. Where was that premiere?
Do you know what? I don't recall. I think it was in LA.
Okay.
I don't actually recall.
Okay. Did you know at the time of that premiere in probably LA, but possibly somewhere else, did you know at the time that Mr. Depp and Miss Heard were seeing each other romantically?
No, I didn't. I actually didn't. I mean, I surmised that there was a spark there, It wasn't until maybe a few days later, a few nights later, we were at a dinner party somewhere, a promotional thing, and Amber and Johnny were basically, sparking up. They were getting together. Then I sort of assumed that there was a romance happening there, budding there,
Okay. Over the course of Mr. Depp and Miss Heard's relationship with each other, about how often would you say you saw them together?
Well, in the beginning, actually not a lot, not a lot. Maybe once a week, twice a week at a push. But then it started, maturing into a relationship. So more often as the time went on,
And as time went on, did you have an opportunity to observe how Mr. Depp and Miss Heard interacted with each other?
At the beginning, lovey-dovey, everything was great. The honeymoon period was on, and it was, it was good. I mean, it was great to see Johnny happy again. Amber was, lovely, charming, as she usually is, good as gold. And then things started to change. Amber started to change. Amber started getting a bit more feisty, demanding, I could see that Amber wanted to wear the pants in this relationship. That was pretty obvious.
And what in particular made you think that you observed personally?
Just the way, if something wasn't quite right, or Amber could get a bit frosty at the drop of a hat. So as time went on, I could see them change. I could see Amber change. I could see Johnny getting quieter. You get into the car and nobody was speaking. And, it just, things started changing. Amber started getting a bit more grumpy.
Uh-oh.
How did she get along with you?
Absolutely fine. Amber was fine with me. Amber was never anything but professional, polite with me. She was. Amber was fine with me.
Did you ever see or hear any arguments between Mr. Depp and Miss Heard?
When you say see, I heard. I mean, I could hear at times in certain accommodations we'd be staying at. I could hear Amber, screaming, I could hear shouting and bawling, and I could hear it going on, But I wasn't there every single night. When we're working in the UK, there's nights maybe I'd get home because Jerry would be there. But I did hear, definitely for a fact. I could hear sometimes the shouting and bawling, It's mostly I could hear Amber screaming,
And about how, I recognize this was years ago, but can you estimate for us how regularly that happened?
I can't say regularly. I can't say it was like every day, but you know, it got more regular. It got more often than not.
Did you ever witness any physical violence between the two of them?
No, never. I've never seen any physical violence. It's not a thing. It's not a thing people would do in front of security. It's not a thing that would happen in front of myself or Jerry Judge or Sean Bett or some. It just wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. No, I never seen any physical security. I never seen any hands-on. No.
Okay, what do you mean you never saw any hands-on?
Well, I never seen any slapping or grabbing or punching or hitting. I never seen any of that physically. Well, I'll tell you what, there was an instance, maybe two incidents that come to my mind. One incident was on a private plane. I can't recall if it was a domestic flight or an international flight. I'm sitting, Johnny and Amber, or Johnny, whoever he's flying with, will sit up at the foretable. There's a foretable up aft, and myself and my colleagues will sit down the forward end of the plane. So I usually look up the fuselage that way, with my back to the nose. Amber had her back to me, Johnny sitting across the table, and there's a bit of bickering going on. I can't hear because, you know, you're talking about jet craft. I can't actually hear, and it's more animated than verbal. And I see a lighter, a plastic lighter, bounce off his chest. Boom, bounce off his chest. So right away I think, well, this is going to escalate. Or it's either going to go one way or the other. I don't think it came to much. I remember Johnny just sort of, you know, smirking and looking away as if to say, you know, well, what is that? It kind of attitude, you know. And Johnny tips his hat, puts his head against the window, and whoa, I'm out, you know. Another time.
They're going to need to get an interpreter for some of the Scottish dialect.
The security room in the loft apartments with a security guard called. Do you know what? I can't recall if it was Sean Bett or a guy called Donovan. Anyway, I got the text. I was down there to pick him up to go to the West Hollywood accommodation, and I got the text.
Objection to the extent he's going to talk about what the text is. That's hearsay.
You can just tell us what you observed without recounting the contents of the text.
Okay. I'm instructed to go and get Johnny, and because we're leaving.
Objection. He just said what he was instructed to do. That
All right, I'll sustain the objection if you can.
What did you do after you received the text?
I go to the loft apartment. The door's ajar slightly, just a what we call a crack in the door. Push the door open, and I go in. Shouting, there's a bit of shouting going on. I can't hear. I'm in the wrong area of the apartment. But as I turn to the left into the more of the lounge area, there's a soda can. I don't know if it's a Coca-Cola or
soda,
Sprite, or I don't know what it was.
A fuzzy ginger.
But it's launched from the mezzanine, and Johnny's had this huge TV, the biggest TV I've ever seen. In fact, but this, and it's on this mechanical arm, which is an actual piece of artwork that Johnny had got commissioned. And anyway, this big mechanical arm holds this TV. So this can of pop, you want to call it pop, smashes on that. But
pop or soda.
Because it made a bang, boom. And all I can hear is it spraying all over the place. Johnny has already got his jacket on and a bag over his shoulder. That's why he's called me in, because we're leaving. I just pick up the other bags, pick up the 2 bags, put my hand through Johnny's arm and say, right, boss, we're leaving. We walk out the door. And we go halfway to the West Hollywood. Johnny's already calmed down, you know. He's like, man, can you...
Objection to the extent he's talking about what Mr. Depp is saying.
All right, I'll sustain that objection. Continue.
If you have, I think we can move on.
Okay, yeah. All right. Next question.
Just to clarify, Mr. Connolly, when the soda can was launched from the mezzanine, where was Mr. Depp in relation to where the soda can landed?
Probably 10 feet, maybe 10 feet back from that. 10 feet back from that.
Okay, and just to make sure we're on the same page, when you refer to the loft apartments, what are you referring to?
The downtown LA Eastern Building.
Okay. What was your? Did you form any understanding as to where, as to who had thrown the soda can?
Objection, speculation.
No.
Oh, good. Oh, hold on, sir.
Speculation.
Wait a second.
Foundation.
What if
I'm
he
just
saw it?
asking if he formed an understanding, and he can state the basis
He
for
said he
that
didn't see it,
if he
so.
did.
If you want to lay a foundation.
Did you? To your knowledge, was Ms. Heard present in the apartment at the time?
Objection leading.
Yes.
I'll allow
I
it.
could hear her. I never seen her physically. But I
Was
could
she
hear her
present?
voice. Yes.
And where did her? Could you tell where her voice was coming from?
Upstairs, just upstairs.
Okay.
She wasn't on the lower apartment with us, so I can only imagine she was upstairs.
Other than the cigarette lighter and the soda can, anything else similar to that you observed?
No, I can't say no.
Did you ever observe any physical injuries on Miss Heard?
Never, no.
How about on Mr. Depp?
Yeah, yes. It started off with maybe a scratch once in a while, a swelling, but it got more. It got more. Yeah, I'm not talking he was marked every week or every 2 weeks, but yeah, he sustained marks. Yeah, definitely, he was getting marked.
And can you describe for us what you can remember?
Objection, Your Honor. Can we
Any presence
approach
service.
for a
Okay,
minute?
all right. Hold on, Mr. Connolly, for a minute.
All right. Understandably, Amber Heard's lawyers don't like this line of questioning. My guess is that they're going to argue that it's all very speculative, and later her attorneys could say, when you saw a scratch, do you have any reason to believe that it was as a result of something she did? I couldn't say. Is it possible that he walked through a pricker bush? Yes, it's possible. Is it possible that he fell down? Yes, it's, it's, let's see where this goes now.
So, Mr. Connolly, you can continue responding. I think the question was just, can you generally describe for us what you remember about the marks you saw on Mr. Depp?
Yes, as I was saying, in the prison service, you're taught to pick up, log in your mind, mental logging in your mind, marks, bruises, bully patterns, stuff. What I noticed straight away was most of these marks and most of these things through my training is happening in the left-hand side of his face, and it would be scratches on his neck, maybe a fat lip in the corner, maybe a bruising on the eye socket. Dull impacts, except for obviously the scratches, maybe on his left ear. Sometimes it'd be two marks, 2 lines, 2 trams, 1. Yeah, yeah. And it was getting more.
Now,
regular.
if it's on Johnny's right side, does that suggest whoever did it is left-handed? Is that the understanding here?
Plaintiff's Exhibit 162, please. And Mr. Connolly, are you able to see the picture on? I assume you can see it on your screen.
He said Johnny's left side. Oh, I misheard that.
Yeah,
Misheard.
Yeah.
And do you?
That is, yeah, I know that picture. I took that picture.
You
that
took the
pictures on the. Yeah, I took the picture.
Can you just quickly tell us what this picture is?
This picture is Miss Heard and Johnny's honeymoon on the Orient Express on the East Line from Bangkok to Singapore. You travel through Malaysia, stopping at Kuala Lumpur and a few other places on the way down. And that is in the dining coach, I think. Yeah, dining coach, that's what that is. The guy on the left there with a silver band around he's the waiter. He's the waiter with the detail to look after us. The guy in the bow tie, he's guest relations manager.
Mr. Connolly, just hold on one second. Before we continue describing the document, I'd move for the admission of Plaintiff's Trial Exhibit 162 and that it be published to the jury.
Any objection?
I'd like to approach it.
Okay.
All right, so attorneys will approach again and discuss this particular document. I want to say a big thank you to Allison Neeson. That's not Nielsen, that's Neeson, who just gifted a subscription on my website. That subscription goes to David Botello. David is getting a free membership. You too can get one.
All right, and Mr. Connolly, I apologize for cutting you off, but could you just continue to describe for us what we're looking at in this picture?
There it is.
Yeah, as I said, the guy in the bow tie, he's guest relations manager. He was detailed to, fix us up with anything we needed, to excursions and transports and stuff. Then it's Miss Heard. The guy, that's the chef who looked after he cooked for us. He's a great chef, by the way.
Great chef.
After us. And that's Johnny. And I also noticed, if you look at that picture, like I said, on the left-hand side, under his eye, there's a swelling. And you see a swelling just on the left-hand side of his nose and under his left eye.
Huh.
And what do you interpret that swelling to be?
What do I interpret it as? That's either he's walked into a door or a door's walked into him.
Okay. Can you tell us anything, and we can take this down, I think.
Wow.
Thank you. Mr. Connolly, can you tell us...
Now, what's fascinating is sometimes I walked into a door as a euphemism for someone punched me.
Miss Heard went on their honeymoon in the picture we were just looking at?
That would... Is it 2013? 2013?
Okay, and were you... well, you testified that you took the picture, so you were there, I assume?
Absolutely, yes.
What can you tell us about that trip generally, and particularly focused on how Mr. Depp and Miss Heard were interacting with each other?
Started off good. Johnny's cabin was maybe 15 meters down the corridor from mine. There was no cabins in between. There was like storerooms, blankets and...
Was this on a boat or a car?
So
I'm sorry, a boat or a train, rather.
But not a big, massive distance, but, it wasn't like... The trip started fine, absolutely fine. I think it was 5 days maybe. 2 days...
What was the Orient train?
Trip, I can see Johnny going down. I can see him coming down, He's just not enjoying this. He's not enjoying this. But, I can't... It's not my business to step in and that. I just do my job, but I can see he's not enjoying this. He's not happy. He's not happy.
Did you ever observe any arguments between Mr. Depp and Miss Heard in this time frame?
Just not arguments, but some frostiness. Miss Heard sort of demanded that we have our own dining cart, if you like. So me doing my job, I inquire to the guest relations guy there that you've seen in the photograph, and he quite rightly tells me that there's other
Objection
VIPs
hearsay.
in the
Objection
train.
hearsay.
All right. Objection to hearsay. All right.
I think we can move on.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
sustain the objection. Next question.
All right, so Mr. Connolly, well, taking a step back for a minute and changing topics slightly, have you ever seen Mr. Depp use any drugs? I don't think that's...
Objection.
Go ahead.
Yes, I've seen him smoke marijuana. I had my suspicions. I have my suspicions that when he goes off to the bathroom, he probably does a bit of cocaine. I've never seen him do it. As Mr. Depp would never do a line or anything of cocaine in front of me.
No lines.
Jerry Judge or Sean Bett or anybody. Johnny Depp would never compromise my license, my position, and embarrass me like that. It wouldn't happen. So to answer to your question, I've seen him smoke weed, yes.
You noticed any particular... What changes, if any, have you noticed in his behavior when he's under the influence of marijuana?
To be honest, a bit more relaxed, no sort of uptight. But he's not
Obvious line of
It's not
questioning.
in his head. He's perfectly functioning.
He would go crazy on the pot. It's like, of course not.
Conversation you want to talk about. He's neither up nor down with that. You know, he really isn't. He's got a very high tolerance for any substance, Johnny. You know, I would say so. You know, I think Jack Sparrow's more drunk than Johnny Depp, to be honest.
So, okay, so that's marijuana. What about alcohol? Same question.
He used to like a wine, and the last I would say the last couple of years that's dropped drastically as well. It's in my last year with Johnny, it's quite actually rare now. It's not rare, but he's not a big boozer now. He's not a boozer now, you know. He's not
A
he was
boozer.
never out his head in wine. He was never, you know. I think I've seen drunk in the 20 odd years I've been with Johnny. I think I've seen him drunk twice.
Wow.
But when I say drunk, I mean drunk. Other than that, there's not a lot of difference in Johnny's demeanour or behaviour. Whether he's drinking alcohol or smoking weed, you know.
Okay. And finally, same question for the time periods when you formed the suspicion that he was under the influence of cocaine.
Sorry, what was that? Sorry, could you ask me that again?
What changes in his behavior, if any, did you observe on those occasions when you suspected but didn't know for sure that he was under the influence of cocaine?
Well, again, due to the training I had in the HMP prison service, it just seemed a bit more, I don't know, happier, up, not so down, you know. But I wouldn't say he's not leaping around kicking his heels or anything. He pick his guitar up and then he gets right into his guitar, and there's no major changes really, you know.
Like Mary Poppins.
He's fine, you know.
Okay. Now, you mentioned you traveled with Mr. Depp and Miss Heard on their honeymoon on the Orient Express. Where else have you traveled with them?
Well, all over the world, Japan, China, Germany. I've been all over the States.
China?
An interesting little place, Hicksville. That's an interesting story. Yeah, all over the world. Australia. Went to Australia. As far away as that.
And let's take that one at a time. Hicksville, you said?
Yeah, Hicksville, yeah.
Hicksville's beautiful.
Funky. I remember it because I remember Hicksville because it's a real funky place, you know.
Is this Hicksville, New York, or Hicksville, the UK? Where is Hicksville? Anybody know?
Johnny, they've decided they're going to go to Hicksville for a day and a night, I think it was. So we all off the trot. Amber and her friends all head off, and Amber travelled with Johnny, but her friends all head off. I followed.
Hicksville.
Johnny wanted to drive his own. They got a beautiful big.
I think there's like a Chick-fil-A in Hicksville, New York, so I don't know where it is.
I think it's a 58 or 50. I don't. Not an expert, but you had to customise. So he wants to drive this car. myself and his assistant at the time, Nathan Holmes, we use another of Johnny's cars and we follow behind. We get to Joshua Tree, Hicksville. Stunning as you can imagine.
Joshua Tree.
It's done in a very funky theme. All the caravans are different themes.
Oh, there's a place called the Hicksville Trailer Palace in Joshua Tree, California. It's a campground as well?
Fairground, fortune teller head that turns around and stuff, all that kind of stuff.
There it is.
Johnny's and Amber's caravan were maybe about 15 metres from mine, maybe 20 metres. And that was done in like the 1950s styles, like kitschy 1950s kind of thing. And the rest of the caravans were all, like zombies coming out the ground, and it was craziness. Anyway, we go there. There's a lot of booze. All the booze comes up. Party starts. We're all sort of sitting around in the sun, messing around. Party starts. So there's loads of booze and weed, and I think mushrooms, some psychedelic mushrooms. That's going around. But the night gets a bit ruined as I'm watching exactly what's all happening. Everybody's happy, Johnny, Amber, everybody's happy. As I'm watching what's happening, I can see Johnny and Amber getting a bit animated. And they were probably about maybe 25 feet from me. So I approach, and I've been working with Johnny that long. I don't have to really say anything. I only have to look at his face. And Johnny can talk to me through his face. He didn't need to say a word. So I know what's happening. So, and I say in a low voice, guys, let's keep this private. Let's start walking towards the caravan. Let's, take this away from here. As I'm walking ahead, going ahead, I can hear sort of, bickering behind me. Johnny's trying to talk in his, low tone, keep things a bit quiet. But Amber's getting a bit more loud, a bit more narky, So anyway, I get them to the caravan, I put them inside, and I go to my caravan.
I've met people at dinner parties who tell stories like this, and I'm like, oh my God, where is this going?
Don't see anything until the next morning. We sit around the pool, a couple of hours, and we head back to LA.
So nothing happened.
What
Mr.
prompted you to...
Mr. Moniz, before do you have a lot of direct still left in this matter?
Not terribly much more, maybe 10 to 15 minutes.
We're going to take our afternoon break then. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take your 15-minute afternoon break.
All right.
And then we'll come back and continue with the testimony, okay?
We are stopping for tea or something, I guess. The afternoon break, testimony from Mr. Connolly, who was a security guard that originally worked with Johnny Depp's family members, but then ultimately was hired directly by Johnny Depp. They will be taking a break at this point.
Let's take a break. Lunch is here.
Okay, so that is important for sure. The jury is exiting. I do want to say thank you to Teresa Fox. Teresa just made a Patreon pledge just for kicks. Today only, Patreon pledges count triple. So from 17, we go to 20. We're counting Patreon triple today, which is incredible. My accountant, who is not that guy that was here representing Johnny Depp, my accountant is a different accountant. He doesn't like this counting triple stuff, but we're going to keep an eye on it for sure. Amber Heard's attorney coming over and using the official move it along hand sign, so we could probably speculate as to what that was about. Okay, let's check out a little bit of that interview that I did with the Trumpist candidate John Gibbs. It has now been published to the Pacman Live YouTube channel. Yesterday, I think we watched about 7 or 8 minutes. Let's roughly pick it up there, okay? This was pretty compelling stuff. Numbers.
What I do know is that gas prices are still far too high. One of the reasons for that is, for example, shutting down the Keystone XL pipeline and totally gutting all efforts to have American energy independence. So we got to go back and reverse those policies so that we can be producing more of our own supply, which will bring prices down.
Okay, but so three different things there. You didn't answer my question, and you also made two claims that were wrong. So I'm gonna do my best to keep up here. So, do you agree gas prices are down about 20% from their peak 2 months ago?
What I agree on is that gas prices are significantly higher than they were when Joe Biden came in office, and we got to fix this problem and bring it back down.
Do you dispute that the gas prices are down 20%?
What I dispute is that gas prices are good. They're not good. They're still too high.
Okay, that's fair.
Whatever the number is 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever one might be, it's still too high. That's the point.
Fair. So now, see, John,
do not really care if it's down 20% over the past couple of months, whatever. But what I do care about is that it's way higher than it needs to be.
So you made an assertion, and I agree. See, I can very simply agree with you. You're right. They're still too high. See how I'm very simply agreeing with you. Are you disputing just that they've come down 20%, or do you agree that they have?
I try to spend time on the relevant questions when I look at my policy, and the relevant issue here is we got to bring the gas prices down.
How do you know they have to come down more if you won't even concede they're down 20%? How do you even know what they are?
I know that they're way higher than they were when Biden got in there, and we got to fix that problem.
Okay, so it's not sounding like you're willing to even in good faith concede they're down 20%. Can you tell me why?
I can tell you that I care about high gas prices because it affects everybody, especially those who are poor and working class and the middle class as well.
Right, I agree with you.
Down.
I agree with you. But you seem to be unable to agree with me on just basic facts. It's weird. Let's move on to the next thing you said, which was Keystone XL is responsible, not having Keystone XL. I want to make sure I know what you're saying, John. Not having Keystone XL is responsible for gas prices being high. Is that an accurate assessment of what you said 2 minutes ago?
It's certainly part of the picture.
Okay.
We do have to increase domestic production. That's the overall point.
Did you know that Keystone XL would not increase domestic production because it's merely a transport method from Canada?
That's right, yes.
Okay.
And we do have stuff coming from Canada as well.
Okay.
We want to do the thing to get more supply in here.
So if the Keystone XL pipeline phase 4 wouldn't increase production, and you just said what we need to do is increase production, how could it be responsible for gas prices being high?
We've got to do both, obviously. We've got to open up that pipeline and also get more domestic production.
But you first said the pipeline not being open is responsible for high prices. What I'm saying is, since it wouldn't lead to any more production, how is it affecting the prices?
Because we need to have more coming in here from everywhere, whether that's domestic production, whether it's from Canada. So,
but it wouldn't change how much is coming in. It would only change how it's getting here.
Yeah, and we need to have more ways of getting it here, obviously, because that will increase supply along with increasing domestic production as well.
But
so
why would bringing it by pipeline instead of truck lower the price?
Because it's more efficient.
I've never read that before. Where it's like, I don't know. It's better to bring it by pipeline. I'm not saying that.
From people that know about this and people that know that when you have that pipeline open, it's better for increasing the supply as well as increasing our own domestic production along with that.
Okay. Do you have any citations on that? Because I've never heard that.
What I do have a citation on is that gas prices are too high. And we need to
I agree. Okay. Oh, man. I mean, it's, I'm doing the best I can, but I'm finding myself at a bit of a logjam because we seem to not even be able to agree on the kind of basic facts. Let's try a different topic altogether and see if maybe we can make some headway. Who's the president of the United States right now?
Joe Biden is certainly the sitting president, but it looks like President Trump likely won the election. Here's a couple of facts for you, David. One, President Trump got more votes the second time than he got the first time. There's no such thing in American history of a president getting more votes the second time and then losing. It doesn't exist. The second thing we know that's a fact is President Trump won the bellwether counties. And when you win a bellwether county, you win the presidency with 100% predictability. President Trump won those, yet still lost. Both of those are mathematically impossible. So that seems to indicate very strongly that there is some irregularities in the election results. So, people are concerned about this, rightfully so. And so we really got to get to the bottom of it, as well as increase our election integrity going forward. If we don't have secure elections, we don't have fair elections, you don't have a democracy. So this is a really big issue we've got to address.
Right. Well, I agree with your conclusion. We have to have secure elections. You said that something is an impossibility, and what you said was an impossibility is if you get more votes the second time than the first, historically, you win. Am I understanding that assessment?
Yes.
That's right. Okay. Have you ever seen things happen for the first time in your life, John?
Of course.
Okay. And so something happened for the first time in November of 2020. Is that fair to say? We'll get to whether it happened fairly. Let's not jump ahead, but arguably something happened for the first time in November of 2020, which is a sitting president got more votes and still lost. Fair, it was the first time that happened.
Well, there's different categories of things that happen for the first time.
Okay.
There's getting into a car accident for the first time.
Okay.
Well, guess what? Other people get into car accidents all the time, so we know that it's something that happens.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about getting more votes the second time than you got the first time. That's something that never happens. And so that's in a different category. That's something that is almost certainly mathematically impossible.
Okay.
So it's not the same category as other things that happen for the first time.
So let me give you an example of something else during the Trump presidency that happened for the first time. And then let's see if we can agree and then extrapolate from that. The average approval rating for Donald Trump during his 4 years was the lowest of any president in the modern era. Would you agree with that? And this is no matter, even if you look at a right-leaning pollster like Rasmussen, which had Trump higher, still, on average, Trump's approval was the lowest of any president in the modern era. Can we agree on that fact?
I might double check that, but let's assume just for argument's sake.
Let's assume it's fair enough. So my suggestion to you as a thinking man, well-educated, everything, we're talking at high level here, given that Trump's polling was the lowest of any president in the modern era, which it was unprecedented low, isn't it also possible that you would see an unprecedented result in the election? Is that possible? Is it possible theoretically?
No, it's not possible for a president to get 20% more votes than they got the first time than still lose.
But you didn't answer the question,
Barack Obama got 3.5 million less votes the second time than the first time. He still won.
Okay.
So you're really looking at just pure impossibilities here.
So you're saying that there's lots of things that happened for the first time during the Trump presidency, but this one thing, Trump getting more votes and losing, that one's not possible.
That's correct, because like I said, different categories of things that happened for the first time.
Wow. Let's see if the trial's back. Not yet. Okay, we'll keep going.
Yeah. There's some things that happen for the first time that are plausible. There's some that are not.
Why haven't any courts found any merit to the 63 different 2020 election-related complaints that have been brought to them? Many of them Trump-appointed judges. Why is it?
Because the Democrats had their legal game going in a really good way, I must say. Even though what they're working for was not good, they had people like Mark Elias in charge of it, and they did a good job of it. Our side was slow to react, slow to respond, and did not take this issue seriously enough before the election. That's just a sad fact. I wish it weren't true. So that's the answer to your question there.
But if there were merit, wouldn't a Trump-appointed judge say, there's merit here, let's proceed?
Well, if you look at our side leading up to the election, when it comes to election integrity, didn't prepare well enough. That's just a sad fact of it. So
how could you have been more prepared? There was an army of hundreds of lawyers, and Trump said for 6 months it was going to be rigged. How could you have been? What could have been done to be more prepared?
A whole lot more. You need to have action at the state level. You need to have litigation.
They did.
Watching, there was not nearly enough of that going on. You need to have poll watchers, you need to have poll challengers signed up. Look in Virginia, for example, at Governor Youngkin's election. Typically in an election in Virginia, Republicans have coverage at 20% of the precincts as poll watchers. But when Governor Youngkin won, Republicans had 90% coverage at the precincts. That's a concrete example of something that the Republicans did that was smart and that made an impact on the election. And what I'm saying and I'm suggesting here is that we didn't have enough of that leading up to the 2020 election, which is why you saw some of the results you did. And that carries over, David, as well to the legal issues where there's not enough preparation, very sadly. So, I think we've got to bring our A game next time. Why
do you think that in Arizona, the audit that was done extended Joe Biden's lead?
I have to go look at that. A lot of these audits, they simply recounted the existing ballots, which is not what you do. You want to go through and do a more thorough look to see which ones.
Now, remember, in Arizona, they were looking at each ballot. They were looking for bamboo fibers, barbecue sauce, all these different things.
Valid and which ones are not, et cetera. But that being said, I need to go back and read the details of that to find out exactly what happened. But we really have got to make sure we increase our election integrity. People are losing faith in the system. There are people saying they're not going to vote anymore because of what happened. So we really have got to restore the public's confidence in our election system.
You know, the polling shows that the American people are actually very confident in our election systems. It's just some Trumpists that aren't. But what indicator are you seeing that at the national level, Americans aren't confident? Because I just looked at polling and Americans seem very confident.
And I've looked at polling that says the opposite. Something like over half of all people believe that the 2020 election results were not legitimate. Even among
That's not true.
Even among independents, the number I believe was over 50%.
No.
And among Democrats, the number was something like in 30 to 40% range. So there's a very, very significant number of people that believe that, unfortunately, there were real irregularities in the 2020 election. And that's why we've got to restore the public's confidence in the election process.
I mean, I think, you know, that's not true that that's what the polling is. In the immediate aftermath of the election, 57% of Trump voters believed that. That number has since declined dramatically. And right now, only about 20% of overall Americans believe that. But I think I have a different question, which is, just because of a lot of Americans believe something, does that mean we change our laws for that? What's your philosophy on that?
Well, you know, I think you have a point there, David, that we do what's right, not based on popular opinion. But this is a nation where popular opinion does happen to be right, that there were issues. And so, like I said, the results were mathematically impossible. So we've got to look at what happened, and we've also got to make sure elections are secure going forward.
You know, it's weird because everybody who is saying that this was a mathematical impossibility, so I'm hearing you say it. I don't know if you're familiar who Mike Lindell is. He sells pillows on television. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I've heard of him, yes.
Yeah. He says it's a mathematical impossibility. Sometimes lawyers who have no training in mathematics say it's a mathematical impossibility. But then you go to actual statisticians and they say there's nothing here that raises any red flags whatsoever. Do you think there's some reason why it's non-mathematicians that are convinced about the mathematical impossibility? I'm trying to figure that out.
I would bet that if you ask mathematicians, you will find that they will say these are highly irregular numbers. Especially the two cases I cited you. So I believe that there are many who would admit that these numbers are impossible.
Okay. When it comes to your platform, if you were lucky enough to win in 2022, and I know you've got to run in a couple minutes, so we'll kind of end on this note. What would be your goal with regard to what is being threatened as an impeachment of Joe Biden? If Republicans take the House and you win, do you think that that's something that the House of Representatives should prioritize the way Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and others have said?
If the evidence warrants it, absolutely. If the evidence says the policies of the Biden administration deliberately have hurt millions of people with recklessness and carelessness, if we determine that, then yes, it would be appropriate.
Now, what's funny is all the time presidents make policy decisions and they're not always good for everybody. You know, you don't impeach president over that. Have any specific policy right now that you suspect might meet that threshold?
I think, one, you've got to look at the COVID response. There should be an investigation there. Two, you've got to look at the Afghanistan withdrawal, which got Americans killed. And there's also the possibility of looking at Ukraine as well, and the absolute lack of leadership that's being shown right now. Those are just some possibilities. And as we dig into those, if we find out that there are high crimes and misdemeanors, then those need to be pursued.
So you're open. I know you're saying you're not saying for sure, but you might support impeaching Joe Biden for his response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Did I hear that correctly?
If there's evidence that American weakness has led to deaths, especially with Americans, which is not as much an issue in Ukraine, but more in Afghanistan, as well as on the southern border, frankly. The whole southern border situation, which is human trafficking, is absolutely outrageous. So if we investigate those and we find that there are high crimes and misdemeanors, then yes, you have a constitutional obligation to.
So the four possible areas of Biden impeachment. It was COVID, Afghanistan, Ukraine, and the border. Is it just those four, or are there more?
Perhaps there could be others. You know, we'll take a look at it.
He knows of at least 4 reasons to impeach Joe Biden. There could be more.
See, and if we find that there are high crimes and misdemeanors, then we would go to the next step.
Wow. John Gibbs. John Gibbs is running as a Republican. He's running to unseat Congressman Peter Meyer. That's a silent J, as we now all know. John, I really appreciate your time today. It's quite an eye-opening platform, and I look forward to following your campaign.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate it.
So that's pretty full-on bonkers stuff, guys. We'll have that, probably an abbreviated version of that next week on the podcast. And yeah, well, I mean, I know it's pretty eye-opening. Yeah, exactly. I want to say thank you to Mark Halks. Mark just gifted a membership on my website and is number 21. That membership goes to Misty Rowe. Misty Rowe is the next person up. The interview was pretty yikes. Yeah. If you would like a free membership, go to davidpakman.com/free membership. Now, if you are in a position where you could gift a membership, I would love for you to do that. You go to joinpakman.com, you pick any membership. I suggest yearly. And as you go through the sign-up process, the box, is this a gift? You just check it. Okay? You check the box, and then I can give the membership to somebody. Right now, we have 690 people waiting. The next person up is Devin Bunch. Devin Bunch would be the recipient of the next gifted membership. We are back. I'm going to take a 5 and we will continue.
All right. All right. Mr. Connolly, can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
All right. Can you just count to 5 for me, please?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Next question.
All right, Mr. Connolly, we were talking about Hicksville there, and you made a comment that you had suggested to Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard that they keep it private or something along those lines.
I did, yes.
My question is just, what prompted you to make that suggestion?
Well, it was getting kind of animated. You know, it was getting animated, and you know, no one wants to see their either dirty laundry in public.
Were they both animated?
More so Amber. Johnny, yes, but more so Amber.
Okay. Do you remember anything in particular that Miss Heard was saying at the time?
I don't recall, no. As I say, it wasn't really coherent. It was more the animation, the head movements and the stern looks and stuff that prompted me to do what I have to do, you know.
Okay. Shifting gears a little bit. You listed out various places that you traveled with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, and I think you listed Japan, Germany, Hicksville, and Australia. Do I have that right?
Correct, yes.
When were you in Australia?
That'll be 2015, Pirates 5.
And what were you doing in Australia?
My job. On that occasion, I flew out first. I usually fly out first to do the advance. The advance includes the check-in of accommodation. Not so much accommodation because Nathan Holmes, Ben King, and a chef called Russell, they would already been at the home, and got that sorted out. My main concern was locations, transport, local security, drivers, you know, making sure all that's in line before Johnny gets there. Jerry Judge would have travelled with Johnny into Australia. On arrival, I would have picked him up at the airport, as we do, take him to the house or whatever accommodation we're staying in, and I would have peeled off. I'd have left it at that, went back to my apartment. Johnny would have been in, maybe it could be up to a week for, you know, makeup, costume before any shooting starts, in which time it gives me a time to run around some locations, the studio, check out the studio, the locations, as well as be around for, if Johnny wants to go for dinner at night anywhere, I would check out these places as well.
Mr. Connolly, I'm sorry. I just had a little trouble hearing you there. Might be the connection, but could you speak maybe just a little bit slower? I'm sorry.
Okay. As I say, my job in Australia is just to secure all the advance. So I would check out, make sure the local drivers are there, all the cars are in order, the accommodations in order, the locations for shooting are all safe, liaison with production, what's expected of them. I would pick him up at the airport when he arrives, take him to the accommodation, peel off, go and check out a few restaurants in case he wants to go out. And if nothing's happening, stand down for that evening.
Does anything stand out to you about your time in Australia in 2015?
Yeah, Johnny lost a finger. One afternoon I was instructed to go to Johnny's accommodation.
Objection, and can we just approach from
Okay,
the-
all right.
Thanks.
Hold on just a minute, Mr. Connolly.
So now they're going to get to a critical issue, which is the incident in which Johnny Depp got a piece of his finger cut off. And this is it's been pretty central so far to the entire case. So I imagine they're going to want to figure out what can and can't be said. Thanks to 222 Damo for gifting a Twitch subscription. You're number 22 today. Also want to say thanks to Quentin Tickler for gifting 2 more subscriptions on my website. Those go to Tim Maziel and Jason Donnelly. Really appreciate that. I know people have been emailing saying, David, sir, you said my name. I get a free membership and I haven't gotten it. It's going to take a few days to catch up with the backlog.
All right, Mr. Connolly, please continue, but as you go, please avoid discussing the substance of any communications that you had with Mr. Depp or his security, and just focus on what you observed.
Okay. I arrive at Johnny's accommodation with my driver, Andrew. I noticed that there's an SUV, one of the security, the RST, resident security team, one of their vehicles is sitting outside the door with no driver. So I just assume there's a security car there but no driver. As I approach the door, I hear a muffled shouting and screaming, and quite muffled though, because the entrance to this house, there's a massive oak door. I mean, it's huge, and it's got to be about 25 mil thick. So I open it, and it's chaos. It's screaming and shouting, but all I can see with my eyes is Johnny. He's wearing a jacket, a hat, and a bag with his notebooks. I always know that bag because it's a grey canvas bag. And he's sort of, nursing one hand. So I'm saying, well, hey, what's going on? And it's screaming and shouting. It's madness. Amber's irate. I mean, tenacious. It's crazy stuff. Johnny's, shouting back. So I've said, Johnny, let's go. Let's go out. That's my job, to remove him from a situation. Let's get out. I do a couple of steps with him. Johnny, give me 5 minutes, Mal. 5 minutes. Well, he's the boss, There's no bullets flying. So, okay, give him 2 minutes. I said, let's go. Eventually, I get him out. I managed to get him outside the door. We go downstairs. But Amber appears from somewhere. Now, I don't know if Amber was upstairs or in the room to the left or wherever. But she appears and she's screaming. Berating him. She's basically berating him. Yeah, fuck off, she's saying, Johnny. Yeah, that's what you do. Fuck off. That's what you do all the time. That's all you ever do is fuck off. You fuck off with your guys, you fucking coward. That's what you fucking do. You fucking coward. Yeah, fuck off with your guys, you big man, all that shit that goes with it. Gets him downstairs. By this time, Amber's on the threshold of the accommodation. She's screaming, fuck off, you fucking coward. That kind of words, And I get him into the car, and I want to sit in the same. I usually sit in the front seat, shotgun, but I want to sit in the same seat at the back, so I can have a look what's going on here and have a chat and have a talk. But when I get around the car, the driver's not locked the door, so he's out the door again, and he's making his way back up the stairs. I get back round again. By the time I get to the top, there's two concrete stairs to the front door. He's just crossing the threshold, and the screaming starting again. Excuse me. Amber is screaming again. Johnny, let's go, let's go. And this time it's a wee bit more force, and I managed to actually basically pull him out of the place. Get him into the car. Doors are locked this time. Into the car, we take off. I got him back to my apartment using, a sort of secret way through the underground car park and service lifts. I get him up to my apartment. Get him into my apartment. Start washing his hand, basic triaging his hand, washing it, first aid. It's a mess. His finger's just a mess. It's like one of them cartoon exploding cigars. I always think in my mind that one of them cigars that blow up. The cartoons boom, and it's so flapping around, and I can see bone. There's bone there. It's smashed to bits, and he's wincing as I'm trying to wash his hand. Anyway, I sit him down and I phoned Debbie the nurse, who's living in the same apartment block as me. So that's my first thing. Phone Debbie. About 20 minutes later, if that, I don't recall. Maybe 25, maybe half an hour. But she turns up with Dr. Kipper. So
at first I was thinking the accent was an impediment to understanding. I'm actually realizing it's a big part of why this is so compelling.
We have to go to the hospital with this. There's no other way. We have to go to the hospital. This has to be seriously looked at. We get to the hospital, and that's when that's when his treatment started,
Okay. When you were in the presence of Mr. Depp and Miss Heard in the house in Australia, how far away were you from Miss Heard?
When I first entered the house, Miss Heard wasn't visible to me. Only Johnny. It's only when we started to leave, Miss Heard appeared, and she's probably, you're talking 3 feet.
Did you observe any injuries on Miss Heard?
No injuries. No injuries.
I'll allow it.
What's the objection?
I'm sorry, what was your answer?
No injuries, none.
Other than the injury to his finger, did you observe any injuries on Mr. Depp?
No, no. Well, I say no. There was a mark in his face, and I didn't know what that was, so I never really put it down too much. But in the hospital, I took a photograph, and when I look at that photograph, I can see 2 injuries. When we're sitting in the car,
hold on, Mr. Khan.
Okay. Objection to the extent he's going to be talking about what the mark is on his, since he didn't see what happened and he's not a doctor, he can't describe what.
We could say what he saw.
That's fine, Your Honor. We
can move on? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
I think you've generally described for us the kinds of things Miss Heard was saying. How would you describe her overall demeanor when she and Mr. Depp were in each other's presence in the house in Australia?
Good days and bad days.
I'm sorry, I mean on that particular day.
On that particular day, I had never seen him in the house that particular day. The time I seen Miss Heard and Johnny in that house is when I arrived there to extract them.
Extraction.
And how did Miss Heard seem to you when you saw her on that day when you arrived to extract him?
Crazy. Fierce, fierce.
Okay. What was the last thing Miss Heard said as you were taking Mr. Depp out of the house to go to your apartment and then the hospital?
Yeah, the last words I recall hearing as I'm getting Johnny out is, yeah, just fuck off with you guys, you fucking coward like you always do.
All right. I have no further questions.
All right, cross-examination.
Here we go. This should be interesting. Let's see which of the lawyers are doing it.
Mr. Connolly,
this guy.
You still work for Mr. Depp?
I do, yeah.
Okay. And you've worked for him now for about 18 years?
No.
Well, 2 years ago, you said you worked for him for 16 years, so 2 more years would be 18.
No,
now.
I worked with him. I didn't work for him. I worked for a guy called Jerry Judge in Music and Arts. Johnny Depp never paid me. Johnny Depp started paying me 2 years ago.
Okay, so now you were working. Jerry Judge was your boss until he passed away. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and now you get paid directly by Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
You're paid a salary by Mr. Depp?
No.
Okay. And Mr. Depp's also provided you gifts, correct?
Gifts?
Gifts. Money, gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Yes, Johnny's given me gifts. I've given Johnny gifts.
And he's given you gifts over $8,500, correct?
$8,500.
Yeah.
He gave me a lot more than that.
Okay. And you're loyal to Mr. Depp, right?
Oh God.
Yes, of course I'm loyal to Mr. Depp. I'm loyal. I'd be loyal to you if I was working for you.
Okay. Now, going to Australia, you said you went to Australia in 2015 with Mr. Depp, correct? Or you went before Mr. Depp, but you were there to work for Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
And Jerry Judge was also there?
Not when I arrived, no.
But Jerry Judge was eventually in Australia, correct?
Correct.
And Nathan Holmes was also in Australia as well, right?
Correct.
And Mr. Depp came to Australia in February of 2015, correct?
Correct.
And when Mr. Depp first came to Australia, Amber was not with Mr. Depp, right?
I don't recall. If Amber arrived with Johnny or Amber arrived later.
You don't know one way or the other?
No.
And Mr. Depp stayed in a house in Australia, correct?
Correct.
And you and the security team were about 40 minutes away from the house Mr. Depp was renting, correct?
25, 30. 30, 40. Yeah, you're correct. If it's a traffic day, 40 minutes at most.
Okay. And alcohol was in the house in Australia, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And Mr. Depp consumed alcohol before Amber arrived in Australia, isn't that right?
Yeah, he would have done, yes.
Okay. And you know if Mr. Depp consumed illegal drugs before Amber arrived in Australia?
I'm going to object to speculation.
I wouldn't know.
Overruled. I'll allow it. Good.
And do you know if Mr. Depp spent any time with Marilyn Manson in Australia before Amber arrived?
Uh-oh.
Don't recall. I don't recall Marilyn Manson being there.
So you don't. So as Mr. Depp's security, you don't know if Mr. Depp was with Marilyn Manson at any time?
I left Australia to smuggle 2 dogs back out of Australia back to.
No. I'm talking about it. I'm talking about in the beginning of March 2015. You were that. You were.
Manson.
You don't know one way or the other.
No.
Were you seeing Mr. Depp every day? In early March 2015?
No, not at the beginning. I had other duties.
Okay. So you don't know what Mr. Depp was doing at that time, correct?
No, I wasn't with him.
Okay. And you don't know when Amber arrived in Australia, correct?
No.
Okay. But you do know that Amber stayed with Mr. Depp, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you talked about a resident security team that was at the Australia house, is that right?
That's correct.
And were there about 4, Was there anyone from the resident security team in the house when you arrived on March 8th, 2015?
No.
Okay. And the resident security team, is it your understanding that they were there? That they were kind of guarding the house?
They would have been in the grounds, but the substantial grounds, real substantial grounds. They would have been at the grounds somewhere.
But they didn't go into the house on March 8th, correct?
I don't know. I never seen them in the house.
Okay. And so when you arrived at the house and went in, was it just Mr. Depp and Amber Heard?
Just Mr. Depp and Amber Heard.
Okay. And
There
before
may have been someone else there. I never visibly seen anyone else. I wasn't there long enough to chat to anybody.
And when you arrived at the house, you could hear a ruckus, correct?
Yes. Well, yes, I could hear. No, yeah, I could hear. Definitely hear something through the door. Yeah.
But you said the door was so thick you couldn't hear the actual words that were being said. Is that right?
No, just a shouting.
And then you went in the house and saw Mr. Depp in the foyer, correct?
Yes, correct.
And Mr. Depp was trying to urinate in the foyer, wasn't he?
No.
Mr. Depp had his penis out of his pants, didn't he?
I think I would remember
Relevance.
seeing Mr. Depp's penis.
I'll allow it.
He's just going to allow the penis inquiry.
And you were trying to get Mr. Depp out of the house, correct?
Correct. I was trying to get Mr. Depp out of the house. Yes.
And Mr. Depp was refusing to leave the house, was he not?
Not so much refused. He just wanted 2 minutes to say his piece.
You took Mr. Depp's arm to try to move him out, but he broke away. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, so he was strong enough to break away from your grip, correct?
No.
So you had his arm and he broke away, though, correct?
No.
Isn't that what you just said?
No. I let him go.
You let go. But it wasn't
Yeah,
easy.
boss.
It wasn't
I'm not
easy.
going to drag him by it.
So Mr. Depp's your boss. You'll do what Mr. Depp wants, correct?
No.
It's not easy to get Mr. Depp out of the house, correct?
It's not easy.
Okay. Now, can we play Exhibit 380A, which is already in evidence?
Plaintiffs or defendants, I'm sorry.
It's defendants, Exhibit 380A.
This is wild, huh?
What is this? Sorry, what is this?
And this is a recording from Australia, and it's just of Mr. Depp.
I don't think that's in evidence, Your Honor.
Hold on, it's not in evidence.
Plaintiffs, Exhibit 380A?
I don't believe there are any recordings from Australia in evidence, Your Honor.
I don't have anything in evidence.
There definitely is. It's just of Mr. Depp. We can.
I don't have 380.
It's not even in evidence.
It's 380A.
380.
This is historic.
Jamie says it was ID'd but never admitted.
It was never admitted. It was.
Your Honor, the recordings from Australia have other voices on them.
We're only asking for it's only the clip of Mr. Depp.
Okay, wait a minute. I have it. It's actually plaintiffs 380A, minute 33 to 34.
What's the foundation for using it with this witness?
He was at the house.
It's in evidence. That's fine.
Oh boy.
So you're playing that clip, correct?
Correct.
Got it on plaintiffs.
Wow.
What you are and who you are and how you fucked me over and make me feel sick of myself. There's still a lot left in the day. Maybe you should dye your hair. I see your ribs.
Did you hear that, Mr. Connolly?
I did, yes.
And that was the sort of condition Mr. Depp was in when you saw him at the house, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Depp was upset and angry when you saw him at the house, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Now, did you take Mr. Depp to the hospital?
Along with others, yes.
Is it your testimony that Mr. Depp was coherent at the hospital?
Yes.
Let's show Defendant's Exhibit 370, and I'd just like you to look at something for a moment. I'm not publishing it. I just want to show him a document. Defendant's Exhibit 370.
Your Honor, I'm going to object on foundation grounds. The witness is not even copied on this document.
I'm going to ask him a question and ask him if it refreshes his recollection. That's all I was going to ask him about. I can use any document to refresh.
Wait, if you want to approach for a second, we'll just see what.
Getting really, I mean, this episode, this finger cut off episode is a critical part of at least the case so far. And we'll see if and how that changes once Amber Heard's case starts to be made, for lack of a better term. It is all surreal. It's, I mean, I know some of you don't like it when I say this, but this entire thing is Kafka-esque. In any number of ways, I want to say thanks to Norbert Hinckley for signing up on my website, joinpacman.com. I really appreciate that and everybody's support of the stream. Also, 222 Damo keeps gifting subscriptions on Twitch, and I appreciate that too. How much longer is this expected to go today? Likely about 15 minutes. They've been ending at 5 Eastern, and weeks left in the trial. Weeks left. 5:30, some are saying. Okay, maybe 5:30.
You can take the document down. Switch document.
You can take it down. Was Mr. Depp's finger was filled with dirt, grime, and paint when you saw it?
Yes.
Okay. And now, you say you saw no bruises or cuts on Amber on March 8th, 2015, correct?
Correct.
Isn't it true that your main concern was Mr. Depp and getting him out of the house, correct?
Correct.
You weren't concentrating on Amber, correct?
I was close enough. If there was any marks on Amber's face, I would have picked that up in 2 minutes.
As you're
trying to change the Home Office.
As you're trying to pull Mr. Depp out of the house, you're scanning Amber for bruises and cuts?
Not scanning, but I'm looking at it.
As you're moving Mr. Depp out of the house, correct?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. How do I know what she's going to lift?
Right.
I'm watching her. When I move a client from a bar situation, a house situation, I watch what's happening around me.
But you're not.
I know where the client is. The client's with me.
Right. The client was with you, and you're not scanning. You didn't scan Miss Heard's body for.
I scan everything.
You scanned everything on her body.
Not everything on her body.
No.
She's wearing long sleeves, from what I recall.
Okay. And at the hospital, the doctor was told that Mr. Depp cut his finger with a knife, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And you understand that the damage at the house, at Mr. Depp's rented house amounted to about $100,000, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
I'll allow it. That's fine. Next question.
In Hicksville, other than when you first arrived, you didn't go to the trailer that Mr. Depp and Amber were staying in, is that right?
Only when I delivered them to it.
Right. And then after you delivered them to
when I delivered them to it, when we first got there.
Right.
We went inside and had a look around, yeah.
But after that, you never went inside the trailer after that, correct?
Correct.
So you have no idea what went on in the trailer between Mr. Depp and Amber, isn't that right?
I was told.
You have no idea. You don't have any personal knowledge as to what happened.
I never seen it.
Right.
No, I never seen it. No.
And you have no idea how much damage was done to the trailer, correct? Personal knowledge.
I do have an idea.
You have no idea what happened to Amber in the trailer, isn't that right?
That's correct.
And you don't. And you talked about that there was tension between Amber and Mr. Depp. You don't know what started the fight, correct?
Correct.
Did you see Mr. Depp grab another woman's arm before they moved off to the truck? Before the fight started?
No.
Okay. Were you with the company when you were you with the group?
No.
Okay.
I was maybe 20 feet away observing. That's my job, not to get involved. I don't sit with my clients in a personal situation. I just observe.
Now, you testified that at times you saw marks and bruises on Mr. Depp, a fat lip, I think you said. You don't have dates for those times that you saw that, right?
I don't recall. No, you're talking. That's a long time ago. You know, it's
right. And you testified in the UK in this. You testified in the UK, correct?
Correct.
And you gave a witness statement too in the UK, correct?
Correct.
And you never testified to seeing any marks, bruises, or injuries on Mr. Depp, isn't that right, in the UK?
I wasn't asked in the UK.
But you never testified to that, right?
I wasn't asked.
Okay. Now, you talked about a private plane that you saw a plastic lighter bounce off of Mr. Depp's chest, correct?
Correct.
And you said you saw Mr. Depp smirking and then he said, was that it? Is that right?
No.
Okay. You don't know what started the fight there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you talked about at the lofts, I think you called it, in Los Angeles, you saw a Coke can get thrown somewhere in the vicinity of Mr. Depp, correct?
It was Pepsi.
I seen a can.
Right.
Not a Coke can. I couldn't tell you what can it was.
Okay. And you don't know what happened before you saw the Coke can get thrown, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you talked about this picture of that you took in Southeast Asia, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you never mentioned in the UK matter or in your witness statement Mr. Depp having scratches and bruises on the train, correct?
I was never prompted. I was never asked.
You gave a witness statement that gave the what you saw and the relationship between Amber and Mr. Depp, and you never talked about bruises or cuts on Mr. Depp in Southeast Asia, correct?
No, I wasn't asked that.
Okay. Now, you said only Johnny could make requests for a private dining car, isn't that right?
I said that.
Only Johnny needed a private dining car. Miss Heard didn't need a private dining car, correct?
That would be correct. Oh yeah, that would definitely be correct. Yeah,
Okay.
only Johnny Depp would need a private dining car, but Johnny doesn't want a private dining car.
Okay. Now, you were not present in Miss Heard and Mr. Depp's cabin on the train, right?
No.
And if a fight occurred,
That's correct.
and if a fight occurred in the cabin, you'd have no way of knowing about it, right?
I wouldn't know.
And you don't know if Mr. Depp was strangling Miss Heard, do you?
No, I wouldn't know.
You don't know if Mr. Depp had his shirt wrapped around Amber's neck, do you?
Objection, speculation, cumulative.
Oh, no, I wouldn't know. The only reason I would know anything in that cabin.
No, okay,
is if the
you wouldn't
cabin
know.
door
You
was open or
answered,
closed.
sir, you answered that.
All right. We can move on.
Okay.
Sir.
Man, this is nuts.
And if we could put up, please, Plaintiff's Exhibit 120.
You can't say one way or the other whether he was chopping her up with an axe.
Been in evidence before.
Well, I have 120A, 120B, and 120C.
So I think this would be 120D if it.
120D?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a little bit absurd, but
Mr. Connolly, I'm asking you questions about the fourth one down. Do you see that?
Yeah, it's not very clear though. I can't.
I'm going
it's tiny.
objection. The document is hearsay. I don't know what the exception would be.
Okay, hold. If you want to come forward, let's.
Another document attempted to be disqualified as hearsay by Johnny Depp's lawyers here. Yeah, this is, it's getting quite intense. It really is. All of it is bizarre to some degree. Who's next up on free memberships? Next is Liam Hildenbrand is the next person waiting. Yeah, if you want a free membership, just go to davidpakman.com/free membership. Currently 687 people waiting. 687. Many anxious people waiting. Live stream tomorrow starts at 8 p. East, 5 p. West. It will be a Trump rally in the state of Nebraska. We will have all sorts of different coverage of what will be going on the ground. I expect it to all be pretty weaponized, and it will probably all make us sad about the state of affairs in the United States. I would assume that. Yeah, I would expect that. It will be live on Twitch. It will be live on Facebook. It will be live on YouTube as well. Let's see if I can squeeze in one voicemail. This They might be almost done, but let's very briefly hear from Whitney.
So, do you believe that Europe really found flaws and stuff in the paperwork?
I do. I actually saw the paperwork, and it was riddled with flaws and grammatical errors, I would say. One more from... Nope, it looks like they're done. Oh, well, let's see.
But I really feel like I have a lot of support with the military.
Good. All right, back to the trial.
Thank you. Take it down. Mr. Connolly, you agree that Ms. Heard's been nothing but respectful and professional to you, correct?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I have nothing further.
All right, redirect.
Mr. Connolly, very briefly, when you were in Ms. Heard's presence in the house in Australia on the day that Mr. Depp lost his fingertip, how far away were you from Ms. Heard?
On the exit, on the egress, about 3 feet, 4 feet at the most.
Can you estimate for us about how long you were in Ms. Heard's presence?
Oh, you know what? Best way to do this is think about it and count it out, okay?
Thorough witness.
15 seconds, 20 seconds.
How was the light?
Well, it's Australia. The door is massive. It's a wall of glass behind them.
It's Australia.
It's absolutely fine. You couldn't get better.
Very bright in Australia.
All right, I have nothing further.
All right. Is this a witness subject to recall?
I think so. Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Connolly, since you're subject to recall, did not discuss your testimony with anybody and don't watch anything about this case, okay? But you're free to log off today.
Of course, Your Honor, yeah.
All right. You're free to log off today, though,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
There's
Thank you,
Mr.
Your Honor.
Connolly.
All right. Your next witness.
Mr. Starling Jenkins, Your Honor.
Mr. Jenkins. Yeah.
Wow, quite an extensive legal team here.
Mr. Jenkins, can you hear me, sir?
Afternoon. Yes, I can, Your Honor.
All right. Perfect. Thank you, sir. All right. If you raise your right hand for me, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Jenkins. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
And could you please state your full name for the record?
Starling Jenkins III.
And Mr. Jenkins, where do you live?
Los Angeles, California.
And what is your occupation?
Executive chauffeur, security.
And how long have you worked as an executive chauffeur and in security?
Executive chauffeur for 30 years, security for 8 years.
And what occupations did you hold prior to working as an executive chauffeur and in security?
Route sales executive and United States Marines.
Mr. Jenkins, do you know the plaintiff in this case, Johnny Depp?
Yes, I do.
And when did you first meet Mr. Depp?
1993.
How did you first meet Mr. Depp?
He used delivery service to transport him to and from.
So in the 30 or so years that you've known Mr. Depp, what services have you performed for him over the course of that period?
Child care, animal care, personal assistant duties, security, and transportation.
And could you estimate approximately how many hours per week would you provide those services to Mr. Depp?
40 to 60 hours.
And can you describe generally your interactions with Mr. Depp in the time that you've worked for him?
Pleasant, always upbeat.
Do you know the defendant in this case, Amber Heard?
Yes.
And when did you first meet Miss Heard?
After the filming of the Rum Diary project.
And can you describe generally your interactions with Miss Heard?
Pleasant, cordial, very respectful.
So, in your time working with Mr. Depp, did you ever observe Mr. Depp's and Ms. Heard's interactions with one another?
Yes.
And can you describe those interactions generally, please?
Very cordial, very aware that people are around them, very, very friendly.
Did you ever see them argue?
Yes.
Can you describe what you observed about those arguments?
It would be initiated by her. She would try to engage with him. He would tell me to turn the music on.
So, where did these arguments take place?
In the car.
Oh, man.
Do you recall how many times you witnessed them argue?
Twice.
Mr. Jenkins, turning your attention to April 21st, 2016, can you tell the jury what you recall about that day?
Could you repeat the question, sir?
Sure. So, turning your attention to April 21st, 2016, can you tell the jury what you recall about that day?
It was the birthday party being held at the penthouse.
And when you say the penthouse, what are you referring to?
It's the Eastern Columbia building.
And what were you doing that evening?
That evening, I was assigned security on the detail.
Were you inside the residence while the birthday party was taking place?
I was in the CP, the command post that's stationed on the same floor, right outside of the elevators.
And did you interact with Ms. Heard at all that evening?
Yes, I did. In regards to getting her clients keys, parking, making sure no one else was on the floor that wasn't invited to the party.
Were there any issues at the birthday party at the time that you were present at the penthouses?
No issues except for the boss did not show up.
And do you recall what time you left that day?
11:15 p.m. that evening.
And Mr. Jenkins, what happened the next day, April 22nd, 2016?
I arrived early, 10:45. Went upstairs to the penthouse. I was informed by Amber that she got in a fight with Johnny last night. She threw his personal property over the balcony into the streets, 9th and Broadway.
And when you say personal property, what are you referring to?
His phone, wallet, credit cards, passports, everything that's in his wallet.
Did Ms. Heard say anything else to you about this altercation?
Nothing except they were fighting.
So what did you do after Ms. Heard informed you that she had thrown Mr. Depp's personal property off the balcony?
Formulated a plan with Norm from the office to use the Find My Phone app, hit the streets, and try to get lucky.
Did you end up finding Mr. Depp's phone?
Yes, I did. In Skid Row, probably 6 miles from the house.
And who had the phone?
A homeless gentleman, unhoused gentleman. I approached him about the phone. He was honest. He returned it. I gave him a reward for it.
And what was the reward?
$420.
$420. Oh, it's perfect.
Apples, Fiji water.
Oh my God, 420. That is
After
amazing.
finding Mr. Depp's phone, what did you do?
420.
I returned to the penthouse, showed the phone to Amber that I retrieved it. I left it in the CP for the evening security to return it to Mr. Depp.
Wow.
So after figuring out things with the phone, what happened next?
What happened next is I walked Amber to the car. We got everybody in the car. She's on her way to Coachella. I went back to the penthouse to retrieve the dogs and the luggage.
Were you also going to Coachella with Ms. Heard?
Yes, I was. I was the transportation for Amber and her friends while she was at Coachella.
So how did you get to Coachella?
Drove the SUV.
Did you or did you not enjoy the set by Two Door Cinema Club?
And headed out to the venue.
And the morning of April 22nd, did you see any injuries on Ms. Heard?
No marks. No injuries.
And so, driving out to Coachella, did anyone drive with you?
I was in the car alone except for the animals.
And how did Miss Heard get to Coachella?
She drove a Mustang.
Was anyone else in her car?
She was with, I believe, her sister and one other friend, her assistant, Savannah.
And do you know how many days Miss Heard and her friends were planning to stay at Coachella?
So the following Monday, I believe it's the 25th of April, we departed.
And do you recall where Miss Heard was staying at Coachella?
We were staying at the Parker boutique hotels there in Palm Springs, outside of Coachella.
Were you also staying at the Parker Hotel?
I also stayed there.
And so, did you attend Coachella for work or for pleasure?
For work.
And what was your job that weekend?
Provide security and transportation, animal care. Amber's rolling assistant, take care of her, whatever she needed while she was there at the Parker or out traveling.
Do you recall what time approximately you arrived at the Parker Hotel on April 22nd?
Around 5:30-ish, maybe 5:45.
And what did Miss Heard and her friends do that evening, April 22nd?
That evening, we arrived. We were assigned the rooms. We went with the staff of the Parker Hotel around to the suites where we were staying. They let us in. We let all the luggage in. And
suites at that hotel are about $1,700 a night.
Planned for that evening to depart by 7:15-ish to get to the festival then.
And how did Miss Heard and her friends get from the hotel to the festival that evening?
I drove them directly to there.
And did you have any discussions with Miss Heard on the way to Coachella that evening?
We had a conversation pertaining to the surprise she left in the boss's bed prior to leaving.
Uh-oh.
And when you refer to the surprise in the boss's bed, what are you referring to?
The defecation.
And what did Miss Heard say about the defecation in Mr. Depp's bed?
A horrible practical joke gone wrong.
It went wrong. Oh, God.
Mr. Jenkins, what observations did you make about Miss Heard at Coachella in April 2016?
She had no worries. She was there to whoop it up. It's her birthday. She's with her friends.
And how often were you with her that weekend?
Was with her every
Like, in what way did it go wrong, you know?
From the time that we interacted with
The
the wallet
defecation.
incident,
Oh, my God.
the night before at the party, all the way until Monday, we returned with the pets and the luggage.
And did you observe anything about Miss Heard's health that weekend?
She got sick.
Do you know
She got sick at the venue second night.
Do you know what caused Miss Heard to be sick?
She was eating the magic mushrooms and drinking red wine on an empty stomach.
And how do you know that she drank red wine and took magic mushrooms?
I saw the room service, and I went to their room to collect them to take them out that evening.
So is that something?
In the car.
Excuse me. Is that something you witnessed?
I witnessed it.
And what did you do in response to Miss Heard being sick at Coachella?
I collected her, got her in the vehicle. She didn't want anyone else to know that she was sick. Take her back to the Parker alone. I took her to the 7-Eleven where I retrieved hydrating fluids, Advil, and let her have those. Got her back to the Parker, got her into the suite, and then went back to pick up everyone else.
Wow.
And Mr. Jenkins, when you said Miss Heard got sick, do you recall what her symptoms were?
Yeah, she was throwing up.
Mr. Jenkins, did you see any injuries of any kind on Miss Heard April 22nd, 2016?
No injuries.
I'll sustain. So I asked.
What about the rest of that weekend, Mr. Jenkins? Any injuries that you saw?
No injuries.
I like this guy.
Have you ever witnessed any physical abuse between Mr. Depp and Miss Heard?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Nothing further.
All right, cross-examination.
Seems like a good guy. I don't know. Doesn't have a lot of interest in
Good
being a
afternoon,
player
Mr.
here.
Jenkins.
Good afternoon.
So just to be clear on the chronology, you met Mr. Depp in 1993, is that right?
Correct.
And you've worked for him ever since?
Off and on, yes.
Okay. And your salary's paid by Mr. Depp, correct?
Salary, no.
You receive pay for the work that you do for Mr.
Yes.
Depp, correct?
Of course, yes, of course.
And what Mr. Depp's security is your highest priority in your job, correct?
Yes, it is.
You're loyal to Mr.
His
Depp.
and his family. And his family.
You're loyal to Mr. Depp, right?
Yes.
Now, I want to turn to the night of April 21st, 2016. You just to recap, you said you were working a security shift at Amber's birthday at the Eastern Columbia building that evening, correct?
Correct.
And you said that your shift ended around 11:15, correct?
Correct.
And you said the boss still hadn't shown up by the time that you left the Eastern Columbia building, right?
Correct.
So you have no idea where Mr. Depp was or what he was doing from 9:30 p.m. that evening until at least 11:15 when you left the Eastern Columbia building, right?
No, I do know what he was doing. He was attending to his mother.
Okay. You weren't with him.
I had information.
Okay. All right. That's information that you received, but you have no personal knowledge of that.
I have no reason to doubt it.
I have no reason to doubt it. It came from Sean.
There you go.
Okay.
I have no
Okay. So Mr. Bett told you that?
The boss is out late.
Right. Mr. Bett told you that he was tending to his mother that night?
He didn't say mother. He said the boss was out late. I'm aware of what the situation was, the time frame. He's with his mother.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay.
Is that interesting?
And did you have any understanding that he had a meeting with his new business manager earlier that evening where he was told that he was running out of money and that his taxes hadn't been paid in years? Did you have any understanding of that from Mr. Bett or anyone else?
Objection. Foundation calls for speculation.
All right, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
And you didn't see Mr. Depp that night, right?
No, I did not.
Interesting.
So you came back the next morning to escort Amber to Coachella, right?
Yes.
And you say that Amber told you that she had thrown Mr. Depp's phone off the roof?
Correct.
And did you come to understand that Mr. Depp had thrown her phone off the roof that evening prior to when Amber threw Mr. Depp's phone off the roof?
She informed me of that.
Okay, she informed you of that. So when you went outside to look for Mr. Depp's phone, you weren't looking for Miss Heard's phone, were you?
She had her phone. She was trying to re-download and back it up.
Okay, so you were only looking for Mr. Depp's phone
because she had her.
You went downstairs to try to.
Yeah, hers was in her hand
with an unhoused person. You said, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and did I hear you right that you said it was 6 miles away where you found the phone?
Correct.
It actually wasn't 6 miles away. It was actually right below the building, the ECB building.
No, it was
correct?
not.
Okay,
No, it was not.
Can you pull up? Does he have a way to see documents that just him, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay. Could you please pull up the witness statement, Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Jenkins, do you remember giving testimony on Mr. Depp's behalf in the UK trial?
Yes, I did.
And you gave a witness statement first in writing, correct? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And then you were examined by the attorneys in the trial, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can you see on your screen the statement do you see a witness statement?
Yes, I see it.
It says witness statement of Starling Jenkins, right?
Correct.
And this is the statement that you wrote and signed as part of the UK trial on behalf of Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
This should be interesting.
If you can scroll, please, to page 3 of the document. And Mr. Jenkins, I'm going to read you what you wrote in paragraph 13.
Okay.
And
Everybody's
we can
riveted
go
now.
from there. On paragraph 13, you wrote in your witness statement in the UK trial, the Find My iPhone application indicated that Johnny's phone was somewhere on the streets below the balcony of the residence. Did I read that right?
If that's what it says, that's what it says. I'm telling you, the phone was in Skid Row.
Okay,
I have
so
the photo of the gentleman that found it. I have the location where the phone was found.
isn't Skid Row just a few blocks away from the Eastern Columbia building?
No, it's on 6th and Main, I guess, depending on what area you are.
Okay, so one of these two sworn statements, either what you just said in court just now that it was found 6 miles away, or this, one of these is false, correct?
It's just inadequate as far as the location. The location is not below the penthouse. It's not on Broadway. It was found on Broadway by the unhoused man, and then he lives off of Skid Row.
Okay. Now let's move on to Coachella, please.
Is it possible at some point the phone was in the first location, but it ultimately was retrieved where the Skid Row guy was? I mean, I don't know.
Say that Amber and her friends were having a good time that weekend?
Yes, they were.
And there were thousands of other people at that music festival too, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Were you aware that Amber's sister Whitney was pregnant and sober that weekend?
Wasn't my information, wasn't my knowledge.
Were you aware that Amber's sister Whitney threw up in a parking lot that weekend?
No.
Okay. To your knowledge and understanding, Mr. Jenkins, there's nothing wrong with wanting to spend time with your friends at a music festival after being abused by your husband, right?
Whoa. How is there no objection?
That's not an abnormal thing to want to be around your friends, correct?
She was partying it up with her friends. She was partying it up.
And you said you didn't hear anything about, she didn't say anything to you about domestic violence having taken place, correct?
Nothing in the car pertaining to that.
Would it surprise you that she might not want to talk to someone who had worked for her husband for around 23 years at that point about domestic violence? Would that surprise you?
Speculation.
Objection, speculation, Your Honor.
Sustain the objection. Next question.
Ms. Heard texted you on May 12th, 2016, asking you to call her, correct?
Correct.
And you did not bother to respond to that text, correct?
Correct.
And that was the last communication that you had with her, correct?
Correct.
Now, you weren't, just to be clear, you weren't at Amber's house on Orange Avenue in March 2013 when Johnny was there, correct?
I might have driven him to the location. I'm familiar with the address.
But you didn't enter the house at any point in March 2013, correct?
There is a good point. Leading questions are allowed in Virginia during cross-examination for hostile or adversarial witnesses.
Hurry up and wait in the car, sir.
And you weren't at the Hicksville Trailer Palace in late May or early June 2013, right?
No.
You weren't on a plane flight from Boston to Los Angeles in May 2014, correct? With Johnny and Amber. You weren't you weren't with Mr. Depp and Amber in the Bahamas in August 2014, correct?
Correct.
You weren't with Mr. Depp and Amber in Tokyo in January 2015, correct?
No, I was not there. Correct.
You weren't with Mr. Depp and Amber in Australia in March 2015, correct?
Correct.
You weren't at Thanksgiving with them in Penthouse.
I mean, this is kind of dumb. I understand why it's being done, but he's only there to talk about what he observed when he was involved. Of course, he doesn't. I mean, it's like, no, I wasn't in Australia. I don't know what happened in Australia. Maybe there was abuse. Maybe there wasn't abuse.
Thanksgiving, it's a holiday.
Sure. You don't have any specific recollection of that one way or the other, though, correct?
I would probably say I was on duty that day.
Okay.
It's the holiday.
Okay. You weren't celebrating Thanksgiving in Penthouse 5 with them that evening, correct?
I was in the CP.
Okay, and that's a separate room, correct?
Separate room on the same level, correct.
And you weren't in the Bahamas in late December 2015, correct? with them?
Correct.
You weren't in the ECB with just the two of them the night of December 15th, 2015?
Yeah, no one of the security guards was present for all of the alleged or non-abuse elements, right? I mean, there was a number of different employees here.
House of the Eastern Columbia building on the night of May 21st, 2016 with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, correct?
Correct.
And you'd agree that you have no personal knowledge of what went on between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard behind closed doors, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right, redirect.
Just very quickly, Your Honor, do we have Mr. Jenkins' witness statement? Or perhaps...
The food is here.
And if we could go to the third page, please. Mr. Jenkins, directing your attention to paragraph 13, which Mr. Rottenborn had you look at just a second ago.
Yes.
He read the first sentence of that witness statement. The Find My iPhone application indicating that Johnny's phone was somewhere on the streets below the balcony of the residence. Walked out. Could you please read for the jury the second part of that paragraph?
I walked out onto the street, did not see the phone. I then asked several homeless people if they had the phone. One homeless man admitted to me that he had the phone, returned the phone to me in exchange for the following: $425 in cash, 3 chicken tacos, 2 bags of chips, 2 apples, 4 bottles of water.
And so do you recall where you found the iPhone that day?
Yes, I do.
Objection asked and answered.
All right, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Mr. Jenkins, moving to Coachella, Mr. Rottenborn asked you about
Rottenborn.
Whitney Heard. Do you know who that is?
Yes, I do.
Do you know the difference between Whitney Heard and Amber Heard?
Yes, I do.
And who was sick that day?
One is the boss's wife. One is the boss's sister-in-law.
Who was sick that day at Coachella?
Amber was sick.
Thank you. Nothing further.
All right, is this witness subject to recall?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Jenkins, you're free from testimony, and therefore you're free to do whatever you need to do, or you can watch the proceedings. It's up to you. But you're done for today, though. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you to the court.
All right, have a good day.
Very polite gentleman.
You also.
All right. All right, I think it's close enough to 5:30 that I think we've had enough of a week. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we're going to go ahead and be done with the testimony for this week. Although, since I won't see you till Monday, I want to give you the long jury instruction that I give you every Thursday evening, just so we all remember our responsibilities, okay?
Uh-oh.
So at this time, remember that you are not to read anything about this case. You are not to watch anything about this case. You are not to listen to anything about this case. This applies to television, newspapers, magazines, the internet, and any online sites. Further, you are not to read, watch, or listen to.
Do we believe that the jurors are not looking up anything about this trial? I mean, it's quite literally everywhere. It's just I'd be curious to hear from trial attorneys. Do you just assume jurors are looking at stuff and you hope it's not that much, or what's the approach?
Family, coworkers, acquaintances, and strangers. I also instruct you that you cannot do any research or make inquiries about this case, whether online or by any other means. For example, you
Please also do not watch Better Call Saul or any other legal shows.
Persons involved in this case, nor may you consult dictionaries or other reference materials. What you learn about this case is limited to what you learn in the 4 walls of this courtroom when proceedings are underway. You also may not communicate about this case or the persons involved in this case with your fellow jurors, okay? Hope you have a good weekend. It's supposed to be great weather on Saturday. Go outside, get some fresh air, okay? And just enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you back Monday at 10, okay? Thank you so much.
What a day. Oh, there's no Friday stuff on the on this trial. Interesting.
All right. And as always, Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, please do not do any posting on social media and do not talk to the press. I appreciate it, and have a good weekend. For the attorneys, tomorrow, what time, how many, did we do our homework this week? Yes? We did. Work in progress. Okay, so are we still doing 19 tomorrow? 20. You added one for me. That's lovely. Okay, great. So we'll do 20 tomorrow. So I would suggest 8 o'clock. Can everybody be here at 8? Sound good? Okay, we'll be here at 8 a.m. and we'll just do them until we're done. So bring a lot of meals, okay? All right, we'll see you tomorrow then. Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, I really hope you will join me for the Trump rally in Nebraska. We've got a lot of different things lined up. If you don't join me, I'm basically a guy in a room with a mic by myself, and it's sad for everybody. Okay, so please join me tomorrow, and we'll see everybody then. Thank you.